Please turn to this page in your notes and follow along. We're starting our section on data management. So the first part of that is data. Well, that just means information. And the second part is management. So what do we do with the information once we have it? So in this spiral, what we're going to look at is collecting data and displaying that data. So the first part is collecting data. So in order to collect data, you have to use sampling techniques, and that's what this lesson's all about. I'm going to start off with some terminology that you need to know in order to understand what I'm talking about as we go through the next set of lessons. The first two words I want to talk about are population and sample. So a population is all the individuals that belong to a group being studied. The sample is just a small group of those individuals. Let me give you an example. Here I have 100 dots representing 100 people. So let's say I was interested in getting some information about these people, but I don't have the resources to survey 100 people because I need to get this done fast, and that's my limitation. So I don't have time or the energy to ask 100 people about this information. So what I can do is I can just ask some of them. So let's just say the ones I highlighted in green are the people that I actually asked. So I've got 60 people here that I have given a survey to. That would be my sample. So all of these blue dots represent my population. The ones that I've highlighted are my sample. So the population is everybody you're finding information about. The sample is just the people that you're asking. Okay, so let's say you want to know how many students prefer pencils over pens. Well, what's the population? Well, the population is students. So you would sample all students. You would not sample teachers because they're not part of the population. So you want to make sure that you're sampling members of the population you're interested in knowing about. So if I don't care what teachers think about pencils versus pens, then I'm not going to ask them. I'm not going to have them as part of my sample. So we know the population is the entirety of all the people you're interested in knowing information about. The sample is just the people that you're asking. But how do you choose who to sample or how many people? Well, that's where this next part comes in, sampling techniques. Sampling techniques are just different ways of choosing a sample from the population. So in a minute, I'm going to go through a huge list of different sampling techniques. You won't be responsible for memorizing what the definitions are for each of these sampling techniques, but you will need to be able to recognize the differences between them. However you're choosing your sample, so whatever technique you're using, you need to make sure that your sample is representative of the population. So what I mean is, if your population involves boys and girls, your sample needs to have boys and girls so that your sample represents your population. If your population has grades 9, 10, 11, and 12, then your sample should include grade 9, 10, 11, and 12 students. You would not have a representative sample if your population had all the grades in high school, but you only asked grade 11s to take your survey. That would not be a good sample. Another thing is when you are choosing a sample, it's going to tend to be more representative of your population if you have a large sample and people are selected at random. So large and random is good, small samples and chosen non-randomly would be bad samples. So, however you choose your sample, you want to make sure you have a large sample and they're chosen randomly if possible. If you do these things, then you're likely to have a representative sample. So, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time talking about each sampling technique. You have a list of definitions here. I'll put the names of the techniques over here and you can fill that in. Pause the video if you need to. A simple random sample is when each member of the population has an equal chance of being selected. A stratified random sample is when the population is divided into subgroups and then a random sample is selected from each subgroup in proportion to its size in the population. So for example, you could divide the entire student population in a school into grades. Those would be the subgroups. And then you would select random people from each grade. So that way you would make sure that you're having people represented from each subgroup. Voluntary response is when the sample just has members of the population who have chosen to respond to the survey. So it's purely by choice. A cluster sample is when you divide the population into little clusters and you choose several clusters at random. Every member of the cluster is sampled. A convenience sample contains just members of the population where it's easiest to collect data from them. And a systematic sample is when every nth member of the population is selected. So I say, for example, every 10th name in the phone book. Or you could think of, I have a class list of all the people in my class. I could just choose every third person to sample. That would be a systematic sample. We'll do some examples of these later to identify which sampling technique was used. But however you choose your samples, you need to be aware of something called bias. A survey contains bias if the responses don't actually reflect the population. So maybe the sample doesn't actually represent the population itself. Maybe you have bad questions in your survey that mislead people to answer one way or another. Or maybe you just have poor analysis of results. Maybe you're just using the information wrongly. Maybe you're not interpreting it correctly. All these things can cause bias, and it's just something to be aware of. We'll go through that in a later lesson in more detail. So let's go through some examples. First one, Bob wants to know which type of smartphone Ontario high school students think is the best. Bob works at one school and his aunt works at another. So they each survey students at their own school. So we are going to identify the population, the sample, and the sampling technique. So remember, the population is all the people that the data represents. So we go back to our description. Bob wants to know which type of smartphone Ontario high school students think is the best. So all Ontario high school students, that's our population. So if all the Ontario high school students are who we're interested in knowing about, well, Bob is not going to ask every single Ontario high school student. That's ridiculous. So what's the sample? Well, it says Bob works at one school and his aunt works at another, so they each survey students at their own school. So the sample is just students at two schools. So the population is every single high school student in Ontario, but they're only asking students at two schools. So that's our sample. What's the technique? Well, we can go back to our list of sampling techniques and think about which one is this most like. I would say because they are just asking students at the schools where they work, That's convenient for them. I don't have any information on whether they were asking students at random or how they did that, but if I just go based on what's given, I would say this is a convenience sample. So now we have the question, is this sample representative of the population? Well, you can argue either way, yes or no. You can give a reason for why you think that. I'll tell you what I think. I think since the population is every single high school student in Ontario, and we're only asking students at 2 schools, in my mind, 2 schools is a really small sample because there's probably at least hundreds of high schools in the province. They're only asking students from 2 of them. Another thing we don't know is the 2 schools that were sampled, are they both city schools or are they both country schools, or where are they? Do they actually represent different kinds of people that the province has? You have a difference between students who live in Toronto versus students who live in Sudbury or Stratford even. So you need to make sure that there's a good mix of students to represent the whole population. So I'm going to say this is probably not representative of the population. How could the sample be improved though? Well, you want to make sure you have a large sample and a random sample, and that each part of the sample represents the total population. So one way we could do that is to sample 1 school from each school board. That way we could get a good spread across the whole province. That way we would also ensure that we get a good mix of country schools and city schools, northern schools, southern schools. Different kinds of people in the entire population get represented. The other thing we would need to do is make sure that we're choosing our schools at random. The more randomly schools are chosen, the more likely they are to represent the whole population. Okay, let's do a similar question. So here we have school newspaper wants to determine which candidate for president in the upcoming student council elections is supported by the majority of students. A computer is used to randomly select 20% of the school's population. Okay, so what is the population, what is the sample, and what is the sampling technique? Pause the video and try to figure that out on your own. Well, the population is all the students at the school. They're sampling 20% of the students, and they're being chosen at random. So it doesn't say that they were divided into clusters or anything like that. It's just a simple random sample. Suppose certain grades are unlikely to vote. For example, maybe grade 9s and 12s are less likely to vote than grade 10s and 11s. Could this create problems in the sample? So what I'm trying to get at here is, if they're interested in knowing who's going to vote for certain people, grade 12s are probably not going to vote for the school president next year because they're not going to be there. And grade 9s might not vote because, well, they might just not care, or they might not actually know who the people are. Grade 10s and 11s, they're the most likely to actually care about who the student council president is. So even though the students were chosen at random, this might not be a representative sample because it might not represent the people who are actually going to vote. Next 2 examples. A light bulb manufacturer wants to determine the lifespan of a certain type of light bulb. Light bulbs are all the same, so the sampling technique does not need to be random. As a result, every 100th light bulb was selected until 50 light bulbs were selected for the sample. So we're going to, again, identify the population, the sample, and the sampling technique. So keys to remember, we're sampling light bulbs, and we're choosing every 100th light bulb. The population is all the light bulbs that are made at the factory. We're sampling 50 light bulbs, and since every 100th light bulb was selected, that is a systematic sampling technique. Last example, the parent council of a school wants to determine the average number of hours per week that students spend on homework. Students in different grades have different amounts of homework, so the sampling technique must produce a sample that is representative of all grades. As a result, random students are selected from each grade for the sample. So, what's the population, what's the sample, and what's the technique? So, all the students at the school, that's the population, but only random students from each grade are chosen. That's the sample. Now, here's the key to this sampling technique. It's, yes, random students are selected, but this is not a simple random sample because we're told they're selected from each grade. So we have divided the students into subgroups. Those are the grades. And then you have random students from each grade being chosen. This is a stratified sample. So hopefully that gives you a little bit more of an idea of how to distinguish between the different sampling techniques. There's a lot of terminology that you need to be comfortable with in this next set of lessons. There's practice questions in the textbook that I'd like you to try, and send any questions or issues or problems my way, and I'll help you as best as I can.